Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the Noon News from Montana's news leader.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us from across Montana and northern Wyoming today. I'm Jeanelle Slade. Well, a hopeful step forward in the war against COVID-19. Early this morning, Senate and White House negotiators reached a deal on a rescue package to inject nearly $2 trillion into the economy. That deal comes as President Trump is looking to get Americans in many parts of the country out of the house and back to work. Natalie Brand has more from the White House.
The Senate is expected to approve a more than $2 trillion stimulus package today.
This is not even a stimulus package. It is emergency relief.
The bill includes a one-time cash payment of up to $1,200 for most working Americans, $3,000 for the average family. It also expands unemployment insurance from 26 to 39 weeks for most people and boosts benefits by $600 a week through July.
These benefits will be much easier to access and will be expanded to include part-time, self-employed, freelancers, and gig economy workers.
The plan contains nearly $400 billion in loans and grants to small businesses to keep workers on the payroll, plus another $500 billion in loans for major industries like the airlines.
And that aviation industry is flat on its back. Some 80 to 90% of the passenger load has disappeared.
It also provides more than $130 billion for the nation's healthcare providers.
It's a rescue operation. The resources that our healthcare providers need and the resources that our economy needs.
The White House says the president is ready to sign the stimulus package as soon as it passes the House and Senate. The president is also stepping up his calls to get Americans back to work.
Ultimately, the goal is to ease the guidelines and open things up to very large sections of our country as we near the end of our historic battle with the invisible enemy.
But many are taking a cautious approach to the president's Easter timeline.
The one thing we don't want to see is a relaxing of some of the restrictions on public activities and then a resurgence of the pandemic.
The president says he'll reevaluate when the national 15-day social distancing guidelines expire next week. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
And House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says she'll consider having the House pass the stimulus deal through a unanimous consent after it passes the Senate. Well, here in Montana, 2 more people have tested positive for coronavirus since last night, bringing the statewide count to 53. A Silver Bow County woman in her 60s and a Madison County man in his 70s are the 2 latest cases. 19 Gallatin County residents are confirmed positive. That's the most in the state. And so far, no deaths have been reported across Montana. And all of Montana's public schools and non-essential businesses are now closed until April 10th. In a press conference yesterday, Governor Steve Bullock also announced public gatherings are now limited to 10 people or less. This excludes private homes and other residences. Now, the governor said medical supplies, including thousands of masks and swab tests, are on their way to Montana, but he cautioned they are not easy to get.
The reality really is that our supply capacity depends on either access to private suppliers or when the private market is bottlenecked in part because of the federal government purchasing, the federal government then stepping up and honoring our requests for additional supplies.
Wyoming's governor also announced new restrictions in the cowboy state. Now, hair salons, barbershops, nail salons, massage parlors, and tattoo shops will not open today, and they'll stay closed until April 3rd. Now, these closures have been extremely hard on Montana's workforce. Unemployment claims across the state are just piling up as many people were attempting to file. The Department of Labor's website crashed. Now, leaders say more than 13,000 claims started to overload the website last week. A team worked for 36 hours straight to strengthen that site, and in just the last couple of days, more than 12,000 requests have made it through. The department will backdate any missed claims so people don't miss out on getting paid.
I can't imagine how many are feeling and how frightened they may be. But please know that the UI team and the Department of Labor will bend over backwards to try and serve your needs.
Now, Montana implemented emergency rules to make unemployment benefits accessible to workers laid off due to the coronavirus. Now, the state also waived the waiting week to receive benefits. Well, it's now time to check in on the weather scene with Rob Griggs over there. We woke up to some fluffy white snow.
Yes, we did, and we were wondering how long is that fluffy white snow in parts of Montana going to stick around. It's already on the way out, and as we look at the national picture right now, we can see it's definitely springtime. Look at the high today down there in Dallas. 90 degrees, unfortunately pretty dry all the way from Nebraska down through Colorado into New Mexico. It's going to be a dry day. We've got some showers in Northern California as well as in the Seattle area. Across the northern tier, you notice we got clouds and precipitation moving in toward Minneapolis and into the Great Lakes region. Billings and western Montana and northeastern Montana, all with scattered sporadic shower activity. And of course, we're going to see that continue as it tapers off, but drier, warmer weather is just around the corner. We'll talk about that with the statewide forecast in just a bit, Jeanelle.
All right, thanks so much, Rob. Well, in other news across our state, the West Yellowstone grandmother accused of kidnapping, torturing, and strangling her grandson was back in Gallatin County District Court. Patricia Batts pleaded not guilty on Tuesday to all 4 charges against her connected to the death of 12-year-old James Alex Hurley in February. Batts and James Sasser Jr., Hurley's grandfather, were charged with deliberate homicide by association. Their son, 14-year-old James Sasser III, is charged with deliberate homicide. And just last week, Hurley's aunt, Madison Sasser, was arrested in Texas on a fugitive warrant. Batts' bail stands at $750,000 today. In political news, earlier this month, the Montana Green Party qualified to have candidates on the 2020 ballot here in Montana. But the Green Party itself tells MTN it had nothing to do with that effort and claims it was a campaign ploy by someone else. Well, now MTN's Mike Dennison has it confirmed who that someone is. It's the Montana Republican Party.
Starting in late January, signature gatherers started showing up in 5 cities, Billings, Butte, Bozeman, Missoula, and Helena, asking voters to sign petitions to qualify the Green Party for the 2020 Montana ballot. By March 6th, they had succeeded, but no one had acknowledged who organized and paid the signature gatherers, most of whom were from out of state. MTN News noticed that at least one of the signature gatherers listed on county election records had ties to Republican Party politics and began raising questions. Then, on Tuesday, the state GOP confirmed that it had paid $100,000 to finance a Texas company, Advanced Micro-Targeting, that hired the signature gatherers. The party's director told me the GOP felt Montana voters need more choices on the ballot, thus the effort to qualify the Green Party. But the Montana Democratic Party on Tuesday called the effort election fraud. It said Republicans are afraid that U.S. Senator Steve Daines and gubernatorial candidate Greg Gianforte can't win a fair election this November, so they want the Green Party on the ballot to siphon votes away from Democrats. Republican Party Executive Director Spencer Merwin says the GOP followed all applicable state and federal laws. He also noted that groups supporting Democratic Senator John Tester in the 2012 election spent $500,000 to promote a Libertarian Party candidate to help Tester win his narrow victory that year. The state Republican Party routed the $100,000 it spent this year through a recently formed group called Montanans for Conservation. Both entities will file reports with the State Office of Political Practices in the coming weeks, listing their spending and donors on the Green Party effort. 5 candidates ended up filing as Green Party candidates in statewide races for U.S. House, Attorney General, Governor, and 2 for the U.S. Senate. But one of those Senate candidates, Dennis Danicki of Missoula, told MTN News he was recruited by Democrats and that he hopes to defeat the other Green Party candidate in the June 2nd primary and possibly withdraw. So who comes out on top in this latest round of third-party intrigue in Montana politics? I'm afraid your guess is as good as mine. In Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
All right, thanks so much, Mike. Now, the only Green Party contested primary election will be in the U.S. Senate contest. Well, there's more ahead on your statewide MTN News, a story that will make you smile. A little guy who's making the most of the COVID-19 cancellations. The time now is 12:09. First, Rob is up next with the statewide forecast.